For example 2, we're going to write the equation of the hyperbola in standard form for negative 4x squared plus 9y squared minus 24x minus 90y plus 153 is equal to 0. Just like with the ellipse, because we have two square terms, we're going to have to complete the square twice with these problems. We're going to start by grouping the x terms and grouping the y terms each into their own set of parentheses. So now in the first set of parentheses, you have negative 4x squared minus 24x, plus in the second set of parentheses, 9y squared minus 90y plus 153 is equal to 0. For any terms that are negative, make sure that you keep the negative sign with it inside the parentheses. So if this was a minus 9y squared, I would put the minus with the 9 on the inside. Watch out for that, please, on your assignment. Next, we're going to factor out the coefficient in front of the square terms from each set of parentheses. So if we factor out negative 4 from each thing in the x set of parentheses, we have negative 4 times the quantity x squared plus 6x. If you factor out a 9 from each term inside the y set of parentheses, you'll have 9 times y squared minus 10y. The plus 153 and equals 0 are going to stay the same. And now we're going to complete the square for each set of parentheses. Looking at our b value, the number in front of the linear term, half of 6 is 3, 3 squared is 9. That's what I need to add inside my x set of parentheses. But we didn't just add 9, we added negative 4 times 9. We added a negative 36. So to balance that out, I need to add 36 outside of the parentheses. For my y set of parentheses, half of negative 10 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. So that's what we have to add to complete the square to our y term here. But we didn't just add 25. We added 9 times 25, 225. So to balance out adding 225, we're going to subtract 225 outside of the parentheses. Okay, and it's still all equal to 0. We do a little bit of simplifying here. X squared plus 6x plus 9 gives us x plus 3 squared. Remember, what is inside the parentheses will always be half the b value. Half of positive 6 is positive 3. Half of negative 10 gives us negative 5 for our y set of parentheses. And then if we combine these three terms, positive 153 plus 36 minus 225 happens to be negative 36. To get this in the standard form, we need to get one side to equal 1. So my next step is going to be to add 36 to both sides. So now negative 4 times the quantity x plus 3 squared plus 9 times the quantity y minus 5 squared is equal to positive 36. And if we divide everything by 36, then we're going to be able to get 1. Negative 4 goes into 36 9 times. 9 goes into 36 4 times. And 36 divided by 36 is 1. The last thing we want to do to get this all the way into standard form is that we want the positive term to come first. So we're going to write this as y minus 5 quantity squared over 4 minus x plus 3 quantity squared over 9 is equal to 1. All I've asked us to do for this example is to write it in standard form, but now that it's in standard form, you could do like what we did in example 1. We could identify all the key features and then sketch the graph. We would know that this is a vertical hyperbola because our y term is the positive term here. Next up, example 3, we're going to find the standard form of the equation of a hyperbola with vertices at 6, -1 and 0, -1, and foci at 8, -1 and -2, -1. The first thing we're going to do is find our center. This is going to be the midpoint of the two vertices, or you could use the two foci. It doesn't matter which ones you use. You just can't use one vertex and one focus, okay? Either use both vertices or use both foci. So using the vertices, because they're smaller numbers in this case, in my opinion, the point that's in the middle of 6, -1 and 0, -1 is 3, -1. So h is going to be 3 and -1 is going to be our k. We know this is a horizontal hyperbola because our vertices are to the left and right of our center. Let me back up just a second. If you need to, you can always sketch a quick little graph, plot these points to figure out what point is in the middle of them if you're not able to figure it out mentally. Okay. Next up, we're going to find our values of a and c. A is the distance from the center to the vertex. In this case, that's going to be 3. From 3, -1 to 6, -1 is 3 spaces. C is the distance from the center to the foci. So from the point 3, -1 to the point 8, -1 is 5 spaces, so C is 5. To find B, we're going to use that equation, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So if we put 3 in for A and 5 in for C, 3 squared is 9, plus b squared is equal to 5 squared is 25. If you subtract 9 from both sides, b squared is equal to 16, which means b is equal to 4. And now that we know our values for h, k, a, and b, we can write the equation of this hyperbola. So our horizontal hyperbola equation, x minus h is 3, quantity squared over a squared. Well, a is 3, so 3 squared gives us 9, minus y minus k. Well, k is -1, so subtracting -1 gives us +1. Y plus 1 squared over b squared is 4 squared is 16, is all equal to 1. And here's our equation in standard form. Our last example for today, example 4, we're going to find the standard form of the equation of a hyperbola with vertices at -6, 21 and -6, -1, and asymptotes of y equals x plus 16 and y equals -x plus 4. Again, this time our first step, we need to find our center. The point in the middle of -6, 21 and -6, -1 is going to be -6, 10. This is a vertical hyperbola because our vertices are above and below our center. We don't know our foci, so we can't find C, but we can find A, the distance from the center to the vertex from -6, 10 to -6, 21 is 11 spaces. To find B, we get to use our asymptotes. Okay? In a vertical hyperbola, the slope is positive and negative a over b. So our slope in our first asymptote is +1, and our second one is -1. It doesn't matter which one we use, I'll just use the positive one. Okay? So our slope is 1, which is going to equal a over b. A is 11. Well, 11 divided by 11 is what would give us 1, so b happens to be 11. And now that we know h, k, a, and b, we can substitute this into our vertical hyperbola equation to get our standard form. So y minus k is 10, quantity squared, over a squared. A is 11, 11 squared is 121, minus x plus 6. Okay, again, since this is negative, subtracting negative gives us a positive in our equation. B is also 11, 11 squared is 121, again, is all equal to 1.